If you have bariatric surgery and you're still addicted to food, still turning to eating when you're stressed, overwhelmed, or emotional, this video is for you. And I'm going to show you in this video exactly how I would break the food addiction cycle in 90 days. Because here's the truth. If you had bariatric surgery, the surgery was just on your stomach. It was not on your brain, and it did nothing to change anything about the reasons why you gained weight in the first place and needed surgery, all right? And if you stay until the end, I'll share the single biggest mistake that keeps bariatric patients trapped in food addiction, even when they're doing everything else great. You might be someone that's 1, 2, 3 years after surgery, or maybe farther out than that, and you lost 90 pounds, maybe 100 pounds or more. And initially you felt amazing. I know when I had my surgery, I did. And you thought that you finally were becoming the person that you always wanted to be after surgery. But then slowly, 20, 30 pounds crept back on. And with these pounds came something far worse. That feeling that you were starting to fail again. And you know exactly what's healthy to eat. Knowledge is not the problem. You've read every book, followed every plan, but you still cannot stop that automatic reach for food when work gets overwhelming, family stress gets overwhelming, or you just feel alone at night. And you're probably someone that's successful in every other area of their life except this. You solve problems at work, you lead teams, and you get results. But with food still controls you. And the shame might be eating you alive. You might have invested thousands of dollars into your surgery, or at least into your surgery journey, and you told everyone that this time was going to be different. Bariatric surgery, physically amputating your stomach, you probably thought was the solution, because what could be more drastic than having surgery? But now you feel like you're letting everyone down. Your partner, your spouse, your family, your kids, yourself. And especially your loved ones and family who deserve the energetic, confident mom you know you can be. Maybe you find yourself eating in your car between meetings and hoping that no one sees you on the way home after work, or sneaking food late at night when you're working on that big project feeling like a fraud. You've tried every solution out there. You've tried every diet app, talked to loads of nutritionists, food therapists, your surgeon. You've tried accountability systems. You've probably also injected yourself with a GLP-1, but now you're at the point where you feel like you've exhausted your options and tried every solution out there. And your family doesn't understand. They might say things like, "You had surgery. Why is this still hard? Just eat less and move more." It's that simple, right? But you can't explain that you feel broken inside, that you're living two different lives. You see, if you're a high-achieving professional juggling a demanding, stressful career, you understand the unique pressures that someone like this faces. The client dinners where you have to look normal around food while inside you're panicking. Working lunches where you're trying to focus on business while managing food anxiety, or the exhaustion of maintaining this perfect image while fighting this private battle that no one else can see. And you thought surgery was the answer, the final solution. You thought you'd finally become the confident, energetic person you always wanted to be. But here you are, still fighting the same mental battles with food that you've fought for decades. Still feeling out of control, and maybe feeling even more out of control. You still feel like food has power over you. You're still not the person that you thought you would become. I'm Jessica Lawson, and I work with bariatric professionals who are tired of living this double life. And I understand the psychology of high achievers. We think differently about food and control. We're used to solving problems with logic and strategy and willpower. And we think if we just find the right system, the right plan, we can control this. But food addiction, you see, is not a logic problem. It's a brain wiring problem. And that's why nothing you've tried has ever worked long term. So let me explain what's really happening in your brain after surgery. Because surgery changed your stomach, but it didn't change anything about your brain or your neural pathways. Those stress to food connections in your brain are still there, still firing exactly like they did before surgery. So when stress hits, your brain says, "Hey, Jessica, food will fix this." even though your stomach's completely different. So you end up in this impossible situation where your brain is sending you to food for comfort, but your stomach can't handle it the way that you used to. You feel physically uncomfortable and emotionally unsatisfied. It's the worst of both worlds, but here's the real problem. Most programs, most people, most doctors, nutritionists, whatever, focus on what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat. They give you meal plans and portion sizes and tell you to just stick to it. They're treating the symptom, not the cause, the root cause. And the cause are all those automatic brain patterns that drive you to food for emotional regulation. That's why you keep failing. It's not because you lack willpower. It's not because you're broken. It's because no one has ever shown you how to become the person that doesn't need food for emotional support. I had a client who was a marketing executive who came to me eating in her car every single day after work. And she felt like she was failing because she had 2 young kids and she had absolutely no energy to play with them when she got home. She was living in constant shame, feeling a fraud at work because she looked successful on the outside, but felt completely out of control on the inside. And after 4 weeks of working together, she started to become the energetic, present mom she always wanted to be. She stopped thinking about food 24/7. She started hiking, something she never thought she could do when she was 300 pounds. She started hiking with her kids on the weekends. And most importantly, she felt proud of who she was becoming. The shame was gone. She started trusting herself completely around food in really any situation. And here's what's important to understand. This client didn't learn better portion control or get more willpower. She became a completely different person. Someone who food could not control anymore, and someone who handled stress without ever thinking about food. Someone who felt confident and proud in her skin. And that's what's possible for you too. Here's exactly how to break your food addiction cycle in 90 days and become the person who has complete food freedom. All right. Step 1. You've got to finally understand what's really controlling you. Most people think they're addicted to food, but here's the truth. You're actually addicted to the feeling that food gives you. Food addiction, it's never about the food. It's about emotional regulation, and your brain learned that food equals instant relief from uncomfortable feelings. So the first thing we need to do is help you see the invisible pattern that's been controlling your life. Because right now, you feel like food just happens to you, like you're walking through your day and suddenly you're eating. You don't know why. But there's actually a very specific sequence happening. Instead of tracking every single little calorie that you eat, you want to start tracking and logging what happens in the 60 seconds before you eat. What was the trigger? Maybe it was a stressful email from your boss, a difficult conversation with a colleague, feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list. What was the emotion that you felt? Anxiety, frustration, exhaustion, that lonely feeling when you're working late and everyone else has gone home. And what was the thought that went through your mind? Maybe it was, I deserve this after the day I've had, or I can't handle this right now, or I need something to calm me down. And once we map this out, you can see the exact pattern. Trigger leads to emotion, leads to thought, leads to food. And this whole sequence happens in about 0.2 seconds, so fast that you don't even realize it's happening. But here's what changes everything is once you can see the pattern, you now have awareness and you can interrupt it. And when you can interrupt it, you become someone who chooses their response instead of someone who reacts automatically. Maybe your pattern is this. A difficult client call leads to feeling overwhelmed, which leads to reaching for food. Or maybe it's this. You're running late for a meeting, which leads to an anxiety spike, which leads to you telling yourself, I deserve a treat after this stress, which then leads to stopping at the drive-thru for a McFlurry. Everyone's pattern is different, but everyone has one. And when you can see yours clearly, you stop feeling crazy. You stop feeling like you're broken. You realize you're just human. And your brain has been trying to help you cope the only way it knew how. Step 2. You're going to become someone who chooses their responses. Because once you know your pattern, here's how you become the person who has choice, instead of someone who feels controlled by automatic reactions. Viktor Frankl said, between stimuli and response, there is space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And right now, that space for food addiction is about 0.2 seconds. Yep, 0.2 seconds. That's not enough time to choose anything. So we're going to expand that space from 0.2 seconds to 2 to 3 seconds. That's enough time to choose differently. That's enough time to become someone who food does not control. And this is where you're going to learn something that I call the stop method. So S is stop. Stop what you're doing. Stop. Literally, if you're driving, pull over. If you're walking, stop. Whatever you're doing, stop it. We have not decided we're going to eat. We have not decided we're not going to eat. You're a time traveler hitting the pause button on time. Okay? T is think. Take 3 deep breaths. 4 counts in, hold for 4 counts, 4 counts out. And then I want you to ask yourself, what do I really need right now? What's going on? What's going on in my life? What's going on in this moment? Am I bored? Am I stressed? Am I feeling emotional? Did I just have a difficult client conversation? If I had a difficult client conversation, what do I really need? Is it food? Probably not. O is observe. Observe if you're feeling physically hungry or emotional head hunger, habitual hunger, anything that's not physical hunger. All right? P, pick the alternative that meets what you're feeling and act. Here's what's beautiful about this. This is not willpower. This is not about forcing yourself to resist. This is about practice, like building a muscle. You start small and you build up because your first goal is not perfection. You're not going to get this perfect a lot of the time when you start. It's going to take practice. You start small and you build up. It's just really about catching yourself after you're already eating emotionally and thinking, that was the pattern. No judgment, just awareness. And then your next goal after that is catching yourself before you actually eat. So maybe as you're reaching for food and ask yourself, wait, what's really happening here? And then the final goal is catching yourself before you even reach, before that even happens. And then you're thinking, wow, I actually feel really overwhelmed right now. What do I actually need? Am I feeling physically hungry, or is this just emotional head hunger from my overwhelm? And here's why this works so fantastically. Your brain doesn't actually want to eat. Your brain wants to solve the emotional problem. And when you can solve the real problem, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the frustration, the food cravings, they disappear. You're not fighting the craving anymore. You're just addressing what created it. So instead of spending your days battling food thoughts, you become the person who addresses the real issue. Talk about getting stuff done. And instead of feeling controlled by cravings or food, you become someone who understands their own needs and meets them appropriately. This is how you go from being someone who says, I can't trust myself around food, Jessica, to someone who says, food, it's just food. It doesn't have power over me anymore. Step 3, you got to become someone who has real solutions for every situation. Because most people out there, most programs give you generic alternatives like go for a walk, drink water, call a friend. But you're a type A, high-achieving, busy professional. When you're in a board meeting and you're stressed, you can't go for a walk. When you're traveling and everything feels chaotic, you need strategies that actually work in your real life, in real times. We've got to build your personal freedom toolkit, alternatives that actually satisfy the need that food was trying to meet. But these need to work in any situation, no matter where you are. So you need 3 categories of options. First, instant relief options for when you need something right now. These need to work in 0 to 2 minutes. So specific breathing patterns that can calm your nervous system faster than food ever could. Or progressive muscle relaxation that you can do at your desk during a stressful call. Sensory techniques that can ground you immediately, whether that's an ice cube, peppermint oil, or specific music that shifts your state in a moment. We need energy shifters for when you have 2 to 10 minutes. Movement sequences that you can do in your office. Mindfulness practices designed for busy professionals who don't have time to sit and meditate like Yoda for an hour. Power poses that literally change your biochemistry and make you feel confident and in control again. Third, deep satisfaction activities for when you have more than 10 minutes. So these are the things that truly nourish you, not just distract you. Creative outlets that engage your mind connection activities that fill your emotional tank in a way that food never could. But here's what makes this different is we test these scientifically. Which ones actually reduce your food cravings? Which ones leave you feeling satisfied? And we build your personal toolkit of 5 to 7 alternatives that work consistently for you. Each alternative targets a different type of emotional trigger so that you become someone who always has a real solution. Step 4, you've got to become someone who never fears regaining it. Because the goal of all this is not to white knuckle your way through cravings forever. That's exhausting, frankly, and it doesn't work. The goal is to rewire your brain so the cravings become less frequent and less intense. Eventually, your brain learns new patterns for emotional regulation, and you become someone who doesn't even think about food when you're stressed. And you need to create something that I call a 3-tier freedom system. So, daily prevention. These are morning routines that set you up to feel calm and in control all day long. Stress management techniques for you to use throughout the day. Evening routines that process emotions without food. So you go to bed feeling peaceful instead of planning tomorrow's food battles. Then we got to do weekly recalibration. This is a check-in with yourself where you celebrate how far you've come. Pattern analysis, where you notice what's working and adjust what isn't. You need to become someone who learns from slips instead of spiraling from. Then we've got to create emergency protocols, specific plans for high-stress situations, so travel strategies that work no matter where you are. Holiday and social event navigation so that you can enjoy life without fear. And here's the timeline of all this. The first few weeks, you got to become someone who sees their patterns clearly and has awareness instead of feeling crazy and out of control. Then after that, we got to make you someone who chooses their response instead of reacting automatically. Then after that, you become someone who has real solutions for any emotional trigger. Then you become someone who trusts themselves completely and never fears regain again. Now let me paint you a picture of who you become when you go through these 4 steps. Imagine walking into any restaurant, any social situation, any stressful day and feeling completely, confidently neutral around food. Because food has become fuel and pleasure, not your emotional support system or your best friend anymore. You look at a menu and think, what sounds good instead of what's safe, what won't trigger me, what's healthy, and which of these is not going to make me gain weight. Imagine your biggest work crisis happening and your first thought being about problem solving, not food. Your mind is clear, focused, and creative, and you can handle the crisis with confidence because you're not spending mental energy battling food thought. Imagine maintaining your surgical investment while excelling in your career, and you have the energy for both because you're not exhausted from food battles anymore. But the deeper transformation goes way beyond food. No more secret eating because there's nothing to hide. No more shame because you're proud of who you've become and you trust yourself. No more fear of regain because you trust yourself completely. No more mental energy wasted on food obsession. And think about it. How much brain space do you currently spend thinking about food, planning what you'll eat, feeling guilty about what you ate, or worrying about what you might eat later? All of that mental energy becomes available for things that actually matter to you. And you become someone who has food freedom, not someone who fights food addiction. And there's a huge difference. Fighting implies there's still a battle. Freedom means the battle, it's over. Professionally, this shows up as more mental clarity for important decisions, more energy for leadership and creativity, more confidence in social and professional situations because you're not worried about food. Better stress management and emotional regulation because you have real tools that actually work. Personally, you feel pride in your body and your choices, and you trust yourself around any food in any situation. And you have peace with your relationship with food for the first time maybe in your entire life. And most importantly, you have freedom to focus on what really matters in your life. Your family, career, your goals, your relationships. You become the energetic, confident, present person you always knew you could be. The person your kids deserve, the leader your team needs, the partner your spouse fell in love with, the woman you've always wanted to be. Now, remember, I promised to share the biggest mistake that keeps people trapped in food addiction after surgery. And the mistake is thinking that you need more willpower or more discipline, that you need to try harder, be stronger, and have more self-control, because food addiction is not a character flaw. It's a brain pattern that can be changed. Here's the real truth that no one tells you. Your brain is actually working perfectly. It's doing exactly what it was trained to do. You trained it to use food for emotional regulation, and it's being very obedient. Think about it. Every time you were stressed and ate something and felt a little bit better, you taught your brain food solves stress. Every time you were overwhelmed and reached for food and got temporary relief, you reinforced that pattern. And your brain learned that food equals emotional relief. It's not broken. It's not weak. It actually is being incredibly loyal to what you taught it. The solution is not to fight your brain. It's to retrain it. When you work with your brain instead of against it, change becomes inevitable. This is why willpower never works long term. I'll say that again. This is why willpower never works long term. You're literally fighting against your own neural pathways. But when you retrain those pathways to use better, more effective emotional regulation strategies, the food cravings just disappear naturally. You become someone who doesn't need food for emotional support because you have better tools that actually work. If you're ready to finally fix what surgery could not, your brain's relationship with food, I'd like to invite you to apply for my coaching program, the Bariatric Success Academy. This is for high-achieving professionals who are serious about becoming the person that food cannot control anymore, because someone who trusts themselves completely around any food in any situation is the best version of themselves. And this is a comprehensive program where we implement everything I just shared, plus create your personalized blueprint for becoming someone with true food freedom. But this isn't for everyone. I only work with a small amount of clients at a time, and you need to be committed and willing to do the work to retrain your brain, because it's not the most fun thing in the world, I'm not going to lie. Here's how it works. Click the link below in the description to apply. You'll fill out an application about your specific situation. If it's a good fit, we'll schedule a strategy call to discuss your transformation and see if this is the right fit for you. And here's what I know too. If you've gotten to this point in the video and you're watching this, you are struggling. And that's okay. It is okay to get help. But every month you wait is another month of feeling controlled by food. Another month of not being the person you know you can be. Your surgical investment is also depreciating. Let's protect it. Click the link in the description right now to apply and take the first step towards true food freedom today. Stop letting food addiction steal one more day, hour, minute, moment of your life. You deserve to become the confident, energetic, free person you've always wanted to be. And that person is waiting for you on the other side of this decision.